The almighty gown has returned for another Phasmid Files video. Hello and welcome back to Bug Rounds. On this channel we like to discuss all things creepy crawly, so if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel. So right in front of me just here, you'll have a closer look in a minute, is the Brockphasma spinifemoralis, a species I have absolutely adored keeping. But I actually made another discovery today. I really want to share it with you, but I'm not going to just yet. But it is a discovery for Project Paradise, our cultivation project for phasmids in captivity within the UK. I do believe I've discovered a food plant not known to be eaten by a certain species that they are consuming. Now that doesn't sound too exciting, and it isn't yet. I want to see if this species can thrive and establish purely on this new food plant. It was actually accidental eggs that I'd left behind in some substrate had hatched, and I've noticed that these nymphs have molted at least twice, feeding purely on this other food plant. Really interesting stuff. But we're going to skip that. We will talk about that in a Project Paradise video. For now, let's have a look at this awesome little species. I'm curious to know from this image alone if you can make out the shape. Can you see what is going on here? This is actually an adult male and adult female Brockphasma spinifemoralis. You see him? He's just here, riding on her back. How cool is that? Now the lighting shining off of this table surface I think is going to cause us problems for today, so I'm going to find something else to put these guys on, and I'll give you some information about how to keep them and how to have them thrive in your vivariums in captivity at home. So here you can probably make them out a bit better. The camera has a better focus, but I still don't have the lighting quite how I want it. We'll try and change shots as we go along. So as I said, these are a mature pair of Brockphasma spinifemoralis. If you want to look up the PSG or Phasmid study group number, it is 368, or you can look up the CLP number 550. Now I keep my culture living exclusively off of ferns. However, they will take to other food plants. They'll take to the nice and easy to find bramble. I've even heard of them but not tried them on things like rhododendron, cherry laurel, and apparently, according to website sources, even privet supposedly. Although I've never heard of keepers myself rearing these on privet. So if you have, feel free to comment below. Now these are a beautiful small Vietnamese species that were discovered, or at least cultured, back in 2012 under a different name back then. I cannot off the top of my head recall the name, but if I find it out I will pop it on the screen for you now. These were distributed into the hobby in 2014 under their current name, Brockphasma spinifemoralis. Now I'm pretty sure you can get where the spine part of the name comes from. Look at all those spines across the body. Now they may look a little bit fearsome or a little bit scary, but honestly these are one of the most placid species I have ever kept in the phasmid hobby. Now we're going to talk about the male first. This small spiny little guy sat on the back of his prized female. Now they only get to around about 4 centimeters long, so you don't need a very big tank for these, and the males are so cute. Now it's his job to find a suitable female and guard her. These guys will sit on the back of females for a long time, and if you try and move them, well, they're a little bit stubborn. I'll show you now. So here we go. You see, gently pushing him. He's got no interest in getting off, really. I've already tried to nudge him to do a male only shot, but you can see he's already keeping a leg wrapped around. He doesn't really want to leave this female. And why does he not want to leave this female? Because he wants her to be his. He doesn't want another male mating with her. He wants his offspring to continue. And rightly so, sir. You do that. You're a fine, beautiful little specimen. Now, as you can tell by coloration, focus, it's really hard to focus on these guys. I think it's all the details and the spines on them. But you can see they're kind of mostly brown. They do have greeny patches and they also have beigey patches. The spines go all the way across the back and they are really quite long, and they also have smaller spines going up the legs. It looks like its own little thorn patch, as if it was just a patch of bramble. Now these guys camouflage really well in with the ferns, especially when the ferns are getting that little bit older, when it's starting to get to their time to change. And you want to keep bark there too, because these guys do like to hide, they do like to camouflage, they don't like to be out and about. Now they are nocturnal and they will feed mostly at night time. So, shall we move on to the female? Now I actually have another female specimen to show you, but let's start with this one. Now I'm going to manoeuvre back. She has similar appearance to the male, but is larger. She is about 2 centimeters larger, making her around 6-ish centimeters long. Now you can see that her spines are slightly more spread out on the abdomen. They go more sideways than they do upwards, but as you get closer to the head, they still protrude up and to the sides. Now this gal has quite a fat abdomen. She is heavily gravid and will need to lay eggs, and they actually lay their eggs by whipping their abdomen up over their head and burying it in the substrate. But they are not that good at doing so. I have watched these guys quite a few times and they kind of just scatter the eggs rather than putting them in the hole, which is quite amusing to watch. But that could be because I used a soil-based substrate, not sand. Perhaps they'd be able to dig better in the sand. Now there is some degree of variation among adults, more so in juveniles. In juveniles you have much more vibrant greens, much more mossy, lichen type colorations than you do on adults, but there is some slight changes. So I'm going to take out the other female now to show you the differences between the two. So here she is. She is moving a bit quicker than the other one, probably because she doesn't have a male on her. Now you can see they are almost identical, right? Almost completely identical. But I find that her greens are ever so slightly more aqua colour than the other. Now it's not really picking up on the camera. You probably just think I'm nuts because looking through this screen they look almost identical to me. And for the most part they are. You have to have a very keen eye to notice the differences. I think the female here, the new one I've just placed on, she has a more prominent brown stripe going across her back, and the other one's is slightly more faded. Now you saw how easily I handled her. These are a perfect species for handling. Now you might look at those spines and think, oh my god, but honestly they're so chilled out. Look how easily I just placed her on there, and look how calm they both are out of their environment with a light shining above them. They are really chilled out phasmids. Thought I'd show you a closer look at those colours on the abdomen. Now if you want to house these guys, you want at least 20 centimeters tall. I am using taller. I'm actually using 45 centimeters, but I would go for around about 30. Bigger is always better with phasmids, but 20 at minimum height, and this is so that they can molt successfully. Now being a Vietnamese species, I keep these guys in a moist, humid environment. I actually use a substrate bottom. This isn't necessary as long as you have a laying pit. If you just place a tub in your enclosure with sand or substrate in so that they can dig and lay their eggs, you'll be fine. But I use a full substrate bottom, and that is to keep up the humidity levels. These guys do not do particularly well in prolonged dry spells. Now I also like to add moss to their enclosure and barks for hiding spaces. These guys have done very well with me and I absolutely adore them, really adore them. But please be careful when you are dealing with ferns as a food plant and mosses and barks, because they camouflage so well, especially the young, that you could miss them. Now unfortunately I don't have any nymphs right now to show you, or ova, as they are buried, but I will put a picture up of what that ova looks like, taken from a website, not my photo, on the screen for you now. Now these guys also feign death when they're touched sometimes. They're not skittish, as I said, they're placid, but mine don't. I did in my last batch have a few that will just kind of play dead. These guys simply sit still, or they'll even kind of harden up, like tense up almost, so that you can't maneuver them very easily. Never pick them up by the legs, because you do not want them to lose legs in a defense mechanism. So if they're being stubborn, just let them be. So what type of ferns then? Well, I've tried all types of fern with these guys, but I actually prefer the kind of dragon's tongue style fern. Really fat fronds. They seem to be liking these a bit better than the others, but they will eat the others too. So any type of fern really you can find and harvest, put in their enclosure, test them out for your batch, see which ones take to which ferns. Now, although these guys are easily handleable, although these guys are easy to feed providing you can get hold of ferns, and although these guys do not need a huge amount of space, I still would put them at an intermediate level, and that is for hatch rate. I always find it better with species that bury their ova to actually leave it in the enclosure. My last batch of these, I took the eggs out and reburied them, and I didn't have any luck whatsoever. This time round, they're not due to have nymphs yet, but I haven't seen any in the enclosure regardless, and I have been kind of hoping, because I don't actually know how long the hatch time is for these. I would guess around about 5-6 months, but I'm not totally sure. But with no nymphs being found in the earlier side of that, I'm thinking perhaps it's a little longer, or I'm just unfortunate with the hatch rate. The other thing about breeding these is I'm not quite sure how many eggs they produce a week, but I don't think it's very many. I actually only really see these guys trying to lay their ova once in a blue moon, so I'm going to guess that on a weekly average there is less than 10 eggs. But that again is just my guess. I could be completely wrong. If anybody else has kept these and has found more than that, please let me know. Vastly different from your Indians that can lay so many per week, right? So there's not much more I can tell you about the care of the Brockphasma spinifemoralis, so I'm going to finish this off with trying to get some macro shots of different parts of the body to show you before we call this video an end. So there is the head of a female specimen. Let's move it down. That's the head of the other female. Moving along those beautiful spines and amazing coloration. And there is the male, that little prickly ball of pure joy. My favourite part are those greeny aqua colours on the abdomen. I say favourite part, actually the spines are my favourite part, because you can't get cooler than a spiny phasmid, right? They're like little demons. As I said before, never judge a book by its cover, because these guys are so lovely. I would even recommend them for children, even though they have this spiny appearance. As long as your children are gentle and treat them with respect, these would make perfect pets for them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Phasmid Files. God, I really love these. And also in lighter news, I have had some hatching of the O. peruana. Now if you don't know what the O. peruana are, please check out my Phasmid Files videos on those, because they are absolutely stunning. And they're kind of one of those must-haves for those that like fern eaters in the insect hobby. So yes, we have some hatchlings now. Now no, they are not going to be for sale, because this is a culture I'm trying to grow a bit more before I start selling them. But it is pretty awesome to have had some hatch. So it's going to be a goodbye from me today. A goodbye from our Brockphasma spinifemoralis. I'm going to pop these back in their enclosure. Even our active girl is moving so slowly. So very slowly. They're just magnificent. Aren't you? Yes. Shall we put you back home? Yeah? You want to go back home? Hide in your ferns? Sorry, I do that. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye bye.